Hello children, today we are going to start Unit 6 Nucleophysics. In this lesson, we are going to learn what is radioactivity, properties of alpha, beta and gamma rays, concepts of nucleofission and fusion, controlled and uncontrolled chain reaction and few more topics in this lesson. Come, let's enter into this video session.
Hello children, today we are going to start Unit 6 Nucleophysics. Children, we already learned about what is atom and structure of atom, everything. Okay, you know already that atom is a very tiniest particle. Okay, further we cannot divide it into two. That is called what? Atom. Okay, so you know that structure of atom also. It has the protons, it has the particles like protons, neutrons and electrons. Protons and neutrons always located in the nucleus, that is in the center of the nucleus. Okay, and electrons is always revolve around the nucleus. So protons is a positively charged, neutrons is a chargeless. It both are located in the nucleus, and electrons is negatively charged. It always revolves around the nucleus. This is the structure of the atom. In this lesson we are going to learn about radioactivity, difference between natural and artificial radioactivity, properties of alpha, beta and gamma rays, and fissionable materials, controlled and uncontrolled chain reactions, uses of radioactivity, and principles of atom bomb and hydrogen bomb, and the components of nuclear reactor, and safety measures of radioactivity. Come, let's enter into this video session. Discovery of radioactivity. In the year 1896, French physicist Henri Becquerel finished his research for the week and stored a certain amount of uranium compound away in the drawer for the weekend. By chance, an unexposed photographic plate was also stored in the same drawer. After a week, he returned and noticed that the film had been exposed to some radiation. So, he discovered that he could reproduce the effect whenever he placed uranium near a photographic film. Apparently, uranium radiated something that could affect the photographic plate. So, this phenomena was called as radioactivity, and uranium was identified to be a radioactive element. 2 years later, the Polish physicist Marie Curie and her husband Pierre Curie detected radioactivity in pitchblende. Pitchblende is a tiny black substance. They were not surprised at the radioactivity of pitchblende, which is known as an ore of uranium. Later, they discovered that the radiation was more intense from pure uranium. Intense means it's a very powerful. Also, it was found that the pitchblende had less concentration of uranium. They concluded that some other substance was present in pitchblende. After separating this new substance, they discovered that it had unknown chemical properties and it also emitted radiations spontaneously like uranium. And then they named this new substance as radium. The radioactive elements emit harmful radioactive radiations like alpha rays or beta rays or gamma rays. Definition of radioactivity. The nucleus of some elements is unstable. We already learned about stable electronic configuration and unstable electronic configuration in the class 9. Okay, when we'll say a stable electronic configuration in the outermost shell, 8 electrons will be there. Okay, If there is less than 8 electrons, we'll say it is called as what? Unstable electronic configuration. So such nuclei undergo nuclear decay and get converted into more stable nuclei. So unstable nuclei will undergoes into the nuclear decay process, and then it's converting into what? More stable nuclei. So during this nuclear reaction, these nuclei emit certain harmful radiations. Okay, so when it undergoes into that nuclear reaction, it emits what? Some harmful radiation and elementary particles. Thus, this phenomena of nuclear decay of certain elements with the emission of radiations like what radiations? Alpha, beta and gamma rays. This is called what? Radioactivity, and the elements which undergo this phenomena are called radioactive elements. In this figure we can able to say alpha rays, beta rays, gamma rays. Okay, which is more penetrating power? Only gamma rays and beta rays. Alpha is very less penetrating power. So by using paper we can stop the alpha rays. By using aluminum like materials we can stop the beta rays. Gamma rays, by using a lead container, lead materials, we can stop the gamma rays. Okay, which is more penetrating power? Means gamma rays. Natural radioactivity. The elements such as uranium and radium undergo radioactivity and emit the radiations on their own without any human interventions. So naturally it undergoes into the radioactivity process, and while they undergoes in the radio decay process, it emits the radiation, okay, without any human intervention. So this is called what we'll say natural radioactivity. So this phenomena of spontaneous emission of the radiation from certain elements on their own is called what? Natural radioactivity. So let's see what are the elements which undergoes into this radioactivity process. The elements whose atomic number is more than 83 undergo spontaneous radioactivity. Example, uranium, radium, etc. There are only two elements which have been identified as radioactive substances with atomic number less than 83. So they are technetium with atomic number 43 and promethium with atomic number 61. These two elements have less than what? Atomic number is less than 83. Artificial radioactivity or induced radioactivity. The phenomena by which even light elements are made radioactive by artificial or induced methods is called artificial radioactivity or man-made radioactivity. See, this kind of radioactivity was discovered by Hiram Curie and E. Joliot in 1934. Artificial radioactivity is induced in certain lighter elements like boron, aluminium, etc. by bombarding them with radiation such as alpha particles emitted during the natural radioactivity of uranium. This also results in the emission of invisible radiations and elementary particles. During such a disintegration, here disintegration means breaking into small pieces. Okay, in this process the nucleus breaks into the small pieces. The nucleus which undergoes disintegration is called parent nucleus, and that which is produced after the disintegration is called a daughter nucleus. Here, the particle which is used to induce the artificial disintegration is termed as projectile, and the particle which is produced after the disintegration is termed as ejected particles. Already I told you that disintegration means in that process the nucleus will break into the small pieces. Okay, so before that disintegration particles, okay, that particles will say that is called as what, projectile, and after the disintegration is termed as what, ejected particle. Okay, when the projectile hits the parent nucleus, it is converted into an unstable nucleus, which is turned decay spontaneous, emitting the daughter nucleus along with an ejected particle. Let's see how the disintegration process is happening through the activity. If you denote the parent and daughter nuclei as X and Y respectively, then the nuclear disintegration is represented as follows: X, P, Y. Here Pe represent the projectile particle and ejected particle respectively. Let's see the example. Be, that is 4Be9, that is beryllium element, atomic number is 4 and mass number is 9, plus what is given here, He means helium, 2 atomic number and 4 is the mass number. It gives 6 carbon 13. Actually what happens in the above nuclear reaction, beryllium hits with what, alpha particle, means here helium is the alpha. Okay, then what happens in the disintegration process, it gives carbon, okay, 6 carbon 13. Actually 6 carbon 13 is that unstable, so this carbon will try to become a stable. So after that process, it it comes to a stable, that is 6 carbon 12 plus neutron always will write 0 and 1. So how you will write this equation, 4Be9, that is the X, and He, helium is the projectile. Okay, so the one particle used to induce artificial disintegration is called as projectile. Okay, so alpha, that is helium, is the projectile here. So when this helium alpha hits the beryllium, after it becomes what, it gives a what, carbon, that is 6C12, and ejected, what they ejecting means neutron. Okay, 6C12, that is a stable carbon, and ejecting what, one neutron, 0 and 1. Let's see the comparison of natural radioactivity, artificial radioactivity. Emission of radiation due to self disintegration of a nucleus. Listen the word self disintegration. Already I explained you what is disintegration, process of breaking into small pieces. Here the self disintegration, so that it is natural radioactivity. Emission of radiation due to disintegration of a nucleus through induced process. Induced, it's a artificially man made process. Okay, alpha, beta and gamma radiations are emitted in this natural radioactivity process. Mostly elementary particles such as neutron, positron are emitted. It is a spontaneous process. It is an induced process exhibited by elements with atomic number more than 83. Here, exhibited by elements with atomic number less than 83. This cannot be controlled. Natural radioactivity cannot be controlled, but artificial, this can be controlled. Units of radioactivity. Curie, it is the traditional unit of radioactivity. It is defined as the quantity of a radioactive substance which undergoes 3.7 into 10 to the power 10 disintegrations in 1 second. So 1 Curie is equal to 3.7 into 10 to the power 10 disintegration per second. Other SI unit of radioactivity is becquerel. 1 becquerel is equal to 1 radioactive decay per second, that is 2.703 into 10 to the power minus 11. Another one is Roentgen. Roentgen is the unit of X or gamma rays and cannot be used for other ionizing radiations like beta ray or neutron. For this, an additional unit, the rad, was introduced in 1956. In 1962, it was decided Roentgen is the unit of exposure and rad unit is the unit of observed dose. So 1 Roentgen is equal to 2.58 into 10 to the power minus 4 coulomb per kilogram of air. Other unit also we have, that is Rutherford. 1 Rutherford is equal to 10 to the power 6 disintegration in 1 second. When a radioactive nucleus undergoes radioactivity, it emits harmful radiations. These radiations are usually composed of any of the three types of particles. That particles are alpha ray, beta, and gamma rays. Let's see the properties of alpha, beta, and gamma rays. Now we'll see the properties of alpha, beta, and gamma rays. See here in this table given properties: alpha rays, beta rays, gamma rays. What are they? That all is called what properties? Let's say first is alpha rays. There is a helium nucleus. Helium nucleus, that is called what? Alpha. Okay, 2 helium 4. Okay, so 2 is the atomic number and 4 is the mass number. So 4 means 2 protons and 2 neutrons. That is called what? 4. That is mass number. Protons plus neutrons only mass number. So helium nucleus consisting of 2 protons and 2 neutrons. Next is beta rays. They are electrons minus 1 He 0. Basic elementary particles in all atoms. So this is called what? Beta rays. Next is gamma rays. They are electromagnetic waves consisting of photons. Okay, so these are alpha rays is the helium nucleus, beta is the electrons, and gamma rays is the photons, electromagnetic wave consisting of photons. Let's see charge. Properties of charge in all the rays. Positively charged. An alpha rays positively charged particles. Charge of each alpha particles is equal to plus 2e. Okay, so plus 2e is the what? Alpha particle. Next, beta rays. Negatively charged particles. Charge of each beta particle is equal to minus e. Already we saw that electron. It is a negatively charged, so minus e. In gamma rays, neutral particles, it is chargeless. So charge of each gamma particles is what? 0. Okay. Next we'll see ionizing power of alpha, beta, gamma rays. In alpha rays, 100 times greater than beta rays and 10 times greater than gamma rays. These are the ionization power of alpha rays. Next, in beta rays, it is comparatively low. Compared to alpha and gamma, it is very low. Gamma rays is very less ionizing power. Next, penetrating power of alpha, beta, gamma. Low penetrating power even stop by a thick paper. Okay, even we can stop by using a thick paper this alpha rays. So it has low penetrating power. Beta rays, it has high penetrating power, is greater than that of rays, and they can penetrate through a thin metal foil. Okay, so by using when you use thin metal foil also we cannot able to stop this rays. It can pass through the thin metal foil. Next, gamma rays. These have a very high penetrating power greater than of beta rays. They can penetrate through thick metal blocks. Okay, so through blocks, into the blocks also this gamma rays can penetrate, so it has more penetrating power. Next, effect of electric and magnetic field. Deflect by both the fields. Both the fields means electric and magnetic field in accordance with Fleming, according to Fleming left hand rule. So alpha deflect in the both direction, electric and magnetic field, and beta rays deflected by both fields here also, but the direction is what? Opposite. Okay, deflection is opposite to that for alpha rays in accordance with the Fleming left hand rule. Next, gamma rays does no charge, so they are not deflected by both the field. It's chargeless, so it will not deflect by both the field. Next is field. Their speed ranges from 1 by 10 and 1 by 20th times the speed of light, that is alpha rays. In beta rays, their speed can go up to 9 by 10 times the speed of light. Gamma rays, they travel with the speed of light, so it will travel equally to the speed of light, that is gamma rays. These are the properties of alpha rays, beta rays and gamma rays. Radioactive displacement law. In 1913, Soddy and Fazan formed the displacement laws governing the daughter nucleus produced during an alpha and beta decay. They are stated below. When a radioactive element emits an alpha particle, a daughter nucleus is formed whose mass number is less by 4 units and the atomic number is less by 2 units than the mass number and atomic number of the parent nucleus. So parent nucleus is that actual nucleus. Okay, yeah. So when alpha particles is the parent nucleus, they're forming a what? When it undergoes the decay process, they're forming a daughter nucleus. So these daughter nucleus atomic and mass number is less by 4 units and atomic number is less by 2 units compared to parent nucleus of mass number and atomic number. This is the first radioactive displacement law. Next is, when a radioactive element emits a beta particle, a daughter nucleus is formed whose mass number is the same and the atomic number is more by 1 unit than the atomic number of parent nucleus. So here radioactive element emits a what? Beta particles. In the first we saw emits alpha particle, here beta particle. So when it emits, the daughter nucleus forms. So the daughter nucleus mass number is what? Same. Whatever in the parent nucleus, the same. Okay, yeah. But atomic number is more by 1 units. Okay, there will be changes in the atomic number. Okay, so that is more by 1 units than the atomic number of parent nucleus. This is the second law of radioactive displacement. Let's see alpha decay, beta decay and gamma decay. A nuclear reaction in which an unstable parent nucleus emits an alpha particle and forms a stable daughter nucleus is called alpha decay. Okay, example, decay of uranium. Uranium will write as U-238. Okay, so uranium to thorium Th234 with the emission of an alpha particle. So when uranium undergoes the decay process, when it emits the alpha particles, it is become what? Thorium. Okay, so in this process, in a decay, the parent nucleus emits an alpha particle. Here the parent nucleus is a what? Uranium is the parent nucleus. Okay, it emits an what? Alpha particle, and so it is clear that for the daughter nucleus, the mass number decreases by 4 and atomic number decreases by 2. This what already we saw in the radioactive displacement law. Okay, so mass number is what decreases by 4 and atomic number decreases by 2. So when you see this figure, you can able to understand when this uranium emits alpha particles, alpha here that is helium, okay, 2 helium 4, okay, so that is the alpha particles. So it becomes what, thorium, okay, it forms the what, thorium 90 Th234, okay. So here unstable parent nucleus uranium emits an alpha particle and form as a stable daughter nucleus as thorium. Beta decay, a nuclear reaction in which an unstable parent nucleus emits a beta particle and forms a stable daughter nucleus, is called beta decay. Example, beta decay of phosphorus. Okay, so in this 15 phosphorus emits a beta decay. Beta decay is the -1 E0. Okay, that is the beta decay. Emits phosphorus emits a beta decay and forms a stable daughter nucleus, that is sulfur. Okay, 16s32. In this beta decay, there is no change in the mass number of daughter nucleus. Okay, there is no changes. Here now daughter nucleus is the sulfur. Sulfur is the daughter nucleus. So in the sulfur, mass number is what, 32. Phosphorus also 32. There is no change in the mass number, but there is change in the daughter nucleus of atomic number, that is increased by 1. So phosphorus atomic number is 15, but sulfur atomic number is 16. So only changes in the atomic number, that is increased by 1. So here in the beta decay, when this phosphorus emits a beta decay, it forms a what, daughter, stable daughter nucleus, okay, that is sulfur. Gamma decay. In a gamma decay, only the energy level of nucleus changes. The atomic number and mass number of the radioactive nucleus remains the same. Nuclear fission. In 1939, German scientist Otto Hahn and F. Strassmann discovered that when a uranium nucleus is bombarded with a neutron, it breaks up into two smaller nuclei of comparable mass, along with the emission of a few neutrons and energy. This process of breaking, splitting up of a heavier nucleus into two smaller nuclei with the release of a large amount of energy and a few neutrons is called nuclear fission. Let's see an example to understand the nuclear fission. So let's see the examples of nuclear fission of a uranium nucleus. So uranium atomic number is 92 and mass number 235. So when this undergoes in the nuclear fusion process, so when it undergoes nuclear fission process, this heavier nuclei of uranium is splitting up into two lighter nucleus, that is barium and krypton. Ba is the barium and krypton is the Kr. Okay, so it's splitting up into two lighter nuclei and few neutrons also releasing. Okay, so few neutrons is the, when you see the image we can able to find, okay, neutrons, n is represented as few neutrons. Okay, so when this heavier nucleus it undergoes in the process of nuclear fission, it splitting up into two lighter nucleus, that is barium and krypton, and few neutrons also forming in this nuclear fission process. Okay, at the same time it releases a what, large amount of energy. So that energy is called what, 3.2 into 10 to the power minus 11 joule. Okay, so here converted into joule, but in the figure they given 200 million electron volt, that is MeV. Okay, so that is 3.2 into 10 to the power minus 11 joule. So you have to know nuclear fission means it is a process of splitting up of heavier nucleus into two lighter nucleus. At the same time it releasing a large amount of energy and few neutrons in this nuclear fission. Fissionable materials. A fissionable material is a radioactive element which undergoes fission in a sustained manner. When it absorbs a neutron, it is also termed as fissile material. Okay, so we already know what is fission. In that process, nuclear fission, heavier nucleus is split up into two lighter nucleus. At the same time, it releasing large amount of energy and few neutrons. Okay, that is called fission. Okay, so what are the materials we are using to this process? That is called what? Fissionable material or fissile material. For example, uranium 235, plutonium 239 and plutonium 241 is the fissile material. All isotopes of uranium do not undergo nuclear fission. When they absorb a neutrons, for example, the natural uranium consists of 99.28 percentage of uranium and 0.72 percentage of uranium. Okay, 92 uranium 235. Of these two, uranium 238 does not undergo fission process, but whereas uranium 235 undergoes fission. Hence, uranium 235 is a fissionable material. Uranium 238 is non-fissionable material. There are some radioactive elements which can be converted into fissionable material. They are called as fertile material. So which material converts into fissionable material? That material is called fertile material. Uranium 238, thorium 232, plutonium 240. These are the material called fertile material. Chain reaction. A uranium 235 nucleus, when bombarded with a neutron, undergoes fission producing 3 neutrons. We already know what is fission process. A heavier nucleus is split up into two lighter nucleus, at the same time releasing a large amount of energy with a few neutrons. So these 3 neutrons in turn can cause fission in 3 other uranium nuclei present in the sample, thus producing 9 neutrons. Okay, again these 3 neutrons, again it's what fission process is happening with the other uranium nuclei present in the sample, and at that new uranium nuclei producing what? Again 9333 neutrons. Okay, so this is the chain process. These 9 neutrons in turn may produce 27 neutrons and so on. This is known as chain reaction. It is a self-propagating process in which the number of neutrons goes on multiplying rapidly, almost in a geometrical controlled chain reaction. In the controlled chain reaction, the number of neutrons released is maintained to be 1. This is achieved by absorbing the extra neutrons with a neutron absorber, leaving only one neutron to produce further fission process. Thus, the reaction is sustained in a controlled manner. The energy released due to the controlled chain reaction can be utilized for constructive purposes. Controlled chain reaction is used in a nuclear reactor to produce energy in a sustained and controlled manner. In uncontrolled chain reaction, the number of neutrons multiplies indefinitely and causes fission in a large amount of the fissile material. This results in the release of a huge amount of energy within a fraction of a second. Here we are not using observer to observe that neutrons. Okay, here releasing all the neutrons. So here a large amount of energy will release in the fraction of second. So this kind of chain reaction is used in the atom bomb to produce an explosion. Okay, so this represents an uncontrolled chain reaction. Critical mass. During a nuclear fission process, about 2 to 3 neutrons are released. But all these neutrons may not be available to produce further fission. Some of them may escape from the system, which is termed as leakage of neutrons, and some may be absorbed by the non fissionable materials present in the system. These two factors lead to the loss of neutrons. To sustain the chain reaction, the rate of production of neutrons due to nuclear fission must be more than the rate of its loss. This can be achieved only when the size of the fissionable material is equal to a certain optimum value. This is known as critical mass. The minimum mass of a fissile material necessary to sustain the chain reaction is called critical mass, that will write MC. It depends on the nature, density and the size of the fissile material. If the mass of the fissile material is less than the critical mass, it is termed as subcritical. If the mass of the fissile material is more than the critical mass, it is termed as supercritical. Atom bomb also is based on the principle of uncontrolled chain reaction. So in this uncontrolled chain reaction, we are not using any observer to observe the neutron. Okay, in an uncontrolled chain reaction, the number of neutrons and the number of fission reactions multiply almost in a geometrical progression. This releases a huge amount of energy in a very small time interval and leads to an explosion. Let's see the structure of atom bomb. An atom bomb consists of a piece of fissile material whose mass is subcritical. That piece is given in the figure. This piece has a cylindrical void. Okay, it has a place to insert. It has a cylindrical fissile material which can fit into this void, and its mass is also subcritical. Okay, there is a place to fit that cylindrical fissile material. Okay, when the bomb has to be exploded, the cylinder is injected into the void using a conventional explosive. Okay, so there is a place to insert this material, fissile material. So when you want to explode this bomb, you want to insert this what fissile material. Now the two pieces of fissile material join to form the supercritical mass. First it is a what subcritical. After injected this fissile material into that cylindrical void, it becomes what supercritical mass, which leads to an explosion. The structure of an atom bomb is shown in the figure. Let's see the figure. Conventional explosion, hollow uranium bullet, gun barrel, cylinder, target. During this explosion, tremendous amount of energy in the form of heat, light and radiation is released. Okay, what are the things is releasing while exploding this bomb means heat, light and radiation. A region of very high temperature and pressure is formed in a fraction of a second along with the emission of hazardous radiation like gamma rays. This hazardous radiation like gamma rays which affect the living creatures. This type of atom bombs were exploded in the year 1945 at Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan during the World War II. What is nuclear fusion? The process in which two lighter nuclear combine to form a heavier nucleus is termed as nuclear fusion. Okay, fusion means it's combining. Okay, so two lighter nucleus, in this process we are combining and form a what? Heavier nucleus. Okay, let's see the example. Isotopes of hydrogen. Okay, 1H2. Okay, that is deuterium. Two isotopes of hydrogen we are combining here, fusing in this process and forming a lighter heavier nucleus. Okay, so two lighter nucleus of isotopes of hydrogen combining to form a heavier nucleus. At the same time there is a releasing of what? Energy. Okay, in this fusion process also the energy is releasing. Okay, so that average energy is equal to 3.84 into 10 to the power minus 12 joule. Okay, let's see the figure. So here 1H2, that is the isotope of hydrogen. So two isotopes of hydrogen, that is deuterium. So when we are combining two lighter nuclear, it forms a what? Heavier nucleus, that is helium. Actually 2He3, it is unstable. Okay, yeah. So helium plus neutron also releasing at the same time, energy also releasing. Okay, so see down, isotopes of hydrogen has one protons, one neutrons, and another isotopes also protons, neutrons. When combining these two, it form a was unstable helium, at the same time releasing energy. Okay. The mass of the daughter nucleus formed during a nuclear reaction is lesser than the sum of the masses of the two parent nuclei. This difference in mass is called mass defect. This mass is converted into energy according to the mass energy equivalence. This concept of mass energy equivalence was proposed by Einstein in 1905. It stated that mass can be converted into energy and vice versa. Vice versa means energy to mass, mass to energy. So the relation between mass and energy proposed by Einstein is E is equal to mc square, where c is the velocity of light in vacuum and is equal to 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter second minus 1. This nuclear fission process can take place only under certain conditions. Nuclear fission is possible only at an extremely high temperature of the order of 10 to the power 7 to 10 to the power 9 Kelvin and a high pressure to push the hydrogen nuclei closer to fuse with each other. Hence, it is named as thermonuclear reaction. The stars like our sun emit a large amount of energy in the form of light and heat. This energy is termed as the stellar energy. Where does this high energy come from? All stars contain a large amount of hydrogen. The surface temperature of the stars is very high, which is sufficient to induce fusion of the hydrogen nuclei. Fusion reaction that takes place in the cores of the sun and the other stars results in an enormous amount of energy, which is called as stellar energy. Thus, nuclear fusion or thermonuclear reaction is the source of light and heat energy in the sun and other stars. Hydrogen bomb. Hydrogen bomb is based on the principle of nuclear fusion. So we all know what is the fusion process. In that process, two lighter nucleus combine to form a heavier nucleus. In that time, releasing a energy. Okay, so a hydrogen bomb is always designed to have an inbuilt atom bomb which creates a high temperature and pressure required for fusion when it explodes. Then fusion takes place in the hydrogen core and leads to the release of a very large amount of energy in an uncontrolled manner. The energy released in an hydrogen bomb is much higher than that released in an atom bomb. So this hydrogen bomb we can say it as what? Fusion bomb. Atom bomb we can say it as a fission bomb. Let's see the features of nuclear fission and nuclear fusion. Nuclear fission is the process of breaking up of a heavier nucleus into two smaller nuclei is called nuclear fission. Nuclear fusion is the combination of two lighter nuclei to form a heavier nucleus. Nuclear fission can be performed at room temperature, but nuclear fusion extremely high temperature and pressure is needed. In nuclear fission, alpha, beta and gamma radiations are emitted. Alpha rays, positrons and neutrinos are emitted. Fission leads to emission of gamma radiation. This triggers the mutation in the human gene and causes genetic transforms disease. Only light and heat energy is emitted. Many radioisotopes can be obtained from radioactivity. These radioisotopes have found wide variety of applications in the fields of medicine, agriculture, industry and archaeological research. Let's see agriculture. The radioisotope of phosphorus P32 helps to increase the productivity of crops. The radiations from the radioisotopes can be used to kill the insects and parasites and prevent the wastage of agriculture products. Certain perishable cereals exposed to radiations remain fresh beyond their normal life, enhancing the storage time. Very small doses of radiation prevent sprouting and spoilage of onions, potatoes, and gram. Medical applications of radioisotopes can be divided into two parts: diagnosis, therapy. Radioisotopes are used as tracers to diagnose the nature of circulatory disorders of blood, defects of bone metabolism, to locate tumors, etc. Some of the radioisotopes which are used as tracers are hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, sulfur. Radiosodium Na24 is used for the effective functioning of heart. Radioiodine I-131 is used to cure goiter. Radioion is Fe59 is used to diagnose anemia and also to provide treatment for the same. Radiophosphorus P32 is used in the treatment of skin disease. Radiocobalt CO60 and radiogold Au198 are used in the treatment of skin cancer. Radiations are used to sterilize the surgical devices as they can kill the germs and microbes. In industries, radioactive isotopes are used as tracers to detect any manufacturing defects such as cracks and leaks. Packing faults can also be identified through radioactivity. Gauges which have radioactive sources are used in many industries to check the level of gases, liquids, and solids. An isotope of californium CF252 is used in the airlines to detect the explosives in the luggage. An isotope of americium AM241 is used in many industries as a smoke detector. Archaeological research. Using the technique of radiocarbon dating, the age of the earth, fossils, old paintings, and monuments can be determined. In radiocarbon dating, the existing amount of radiocarbon is determined, and this gives an estimate about the age of these things. Safety measures. In day to day life, you do receive some natural radiation from the sun. The radioactive elements present in the soil and rocks, the household appliances like television, microwave ovens, cell phones, and the X rays used in the hospitals, these radiation do not produce any severe effects as they are very low in intensity. The second source of radiation exposure is man made. These are due to nuclear reactors and during the testing of the nuclear devices in the atmosphere or in the ground. Improper and careless handling of radioactive materials release harmful radiations in our environment. These radiations are very harmful to the human body. A person who is exposed to radiations very closely or for a longer duration is at a greater health risk and can be affected genetically. Permitted range. The International Commission on Radiological Protection (ICRP) has recommended certain maximum permissible exposure limits to radiation that is believed to be safe without producing any appreciable injury to a person. Safe limit of overall exposure to radiation is given as 20 millisievert per year. In terms of Roentgen, the safe limit of receiving the radiation is about 100 milliroentgen per week. If the exposure is 100 Roentgen, it may cause fatal disease like leukemia, death of red blood corpuscles in the blood, or cancer. When the body is exposed to about 600 Roentgen, it leads to death. Do you know dosimeter is a device used to detect the levels of exposure to an ionizing radiation. It is frequently used in the environments where exposure to radiation may occur, such as nuclear power plants and medical imaging facilities. Pocket dosimeter is used to provide the wearer with an immediate reading of his or her exposure to X-rays and gamma rays. Preventive measures. Radioactive materials should be kept in a thick walled lead container. Lead coated aprons and lead gloves should be used while working with hazardous radioactive materials. You should avoid heating while handling radioactive materials. The radioactive materials should be handled only by tongs or by a remote control device. Dosimeters should be worn by the user to check the level of radiations. Nuclear reactor. A nuclear reactor is a device in which the nuclear fission reaction takes place in a self sustained and controlled manner to produce electricity. So, fission process means process of splitting heavier nucleus is splitting up into two lighter nucleus, that is nuclear fission. Okay, so here they everything is happening in a controlled manner to produce what electricity. The first nuclear reactor was built in 1942 at Chicago, USA. Many types of nuclear reactor is there. Okay, so that different types of nuclear reactor used in different places worldwide. Okay, let's see the components of a nuclear reactor: fuel, moderator, control rod, coolant, and protection wall. These are the essential components of a nuclear reactor. Let's see fuel. Fuel is a fissile material is used as the fuel. The commonly used fuel material is uranium. Moderator. A moderator is used to slow down the high energy neutrons to provide slow neutrons. Graphite and heavy water are the commonly used moderators. Control rod. Control rods are used to control the number of neutrons in order to have sustained chain reaction. Mostly boron or cadmium rods are used as control rods. They absorb the neutrons. Coolants. A coolant is used to remove the heat produced in the reactor core to produce steam. This steam is used to run a turbine in order to produce electricity. Water, air, and helium are some of the coolants. Protection wall. A thick concrete lead wall is built around the nuclear reactor in order to prevent the harmful radiations from escaping into the environment. Uses of nuclear reactor. These nuclear reactors are widely used in power generation. They are also used to produce radioisotopes, which are used in a variety of applications. Already we saw that radioisotopes used in medical field, agriculture, archaeological industries, in that places and all radioisotopes used. Some reactors helps us to do research in the field of nucleophysics. Breeder reactors are used to convert non-fissionable materials into fissionable materials. These are the uses of nuclear reactor. Nuclear power plants in India. Nuclear power is the fifth largest source of power in India. Tarapur Atomic Power Station is India's first nuclear power station. Now there are a total of 7 power stations, one each in Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, and 2 in Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu, we have nuclear power stations in Kalpakkam and Kudangulam. Apsara was the first nuclear reactor built in India and Asia. Now there are 22 nuclear reactors which are operating in India. Some other operating reactors are Cirrus, Dhruva, Purnima. Thank you.